Hey everybody, it's Captain Kyle and I have the Robot Force version of, well, it's kind of Computron, but it's not exactly Computron. They call it the Warrior Calculating King. And it's basically very similar vehicles to the Technobots. If you take a look at the back here, pretty much you're gonna have to hold it like that so you can see. It shows the merged bot with a huge ass sword. It shows the 5 individual robots. And while it's not exactly Computron, it's kind of a neat merge piece anyway. So we're gonna go through each of these 5 guys. We're gonna go through the merged Warrior Calculator King, bad name, but that's what we got, and see if it's good for your collection. Be right back. So here they are, the pseudo Technobots, though his head kind of looks like Swoop. But regardless, this is them in their robot modes, fully armed, ready for battle. You can see some of them have swords. This guy has axes. He's supposed to have a sword and an axe, but for some reason, these just fit better in his hands. So he's got, basically, if you watch Walking Dead, he's got really big versions of what the Ninja Turtle guy Elijah has. If you don't watch Walking Dead, sorry. And he's got a sword and a big ass gun. You know, so they're very armed for battle. Now they came, each of them has their own instruction sheet, but on the back is the instruction sheet duplicated for merging them all into one. So we are going to go through these guys one at a time, look at them in bot mode, look at them in vehicle mode, and then we're going to merge them together into their Warrior Calculator King mode. Again, not a name that rolls off the tongue, but these do have metal parts. There's definitely die cast in these guys. They're heavy, they're not exactly lightweight plastic pieces of junk, though one of them actually has a little bit of a flaw, and I'll talk about that. Something to watch out for if you decide to get a set of these on your own. And if you've been browsing AliExpress, you've probably seen these guys at some point and been like, that's not Computron, those aren't Technobots. Well, they're not, but they're kind of neat, and there's supposed to be millions of Transformers in Cybertron, so why not? So let's start with the car guy, who's basically supposed to be Lightspeed, I guess. And he's got the 2 swords. He actually has some metal in his torso. He's pretty poseable as far as doing a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. You can even turn up the toes if you want. When he needs someone, he's got this nice little additional nutcracker. He's a little bit stiff, moving his leg back and forth. His knees pretty fine, and his feet are on ball joints, so it's kind of an ankle swivel. So you can put him in some dynamic poses. And he can fall forward if you're not careful. If you look at the back, he's got these jets here and part of his stuff. But back to the main bot, he does not twist at the waist at all. His arms do move forward and back. He bends at the elbow. No twisting of the fist, but you can kind of swivel it a little bit if you plop out that plate, but you're not supposed to. So he can kind of shrug, so not too bad, and his head does turn. So he's got some pretty good posability. You can put him in a number of different poses. Weaponry, he does have these 2 swords. He also has these exhaust pipes that I guess could be guns on the end of his arms, so he can kind of shoot lasers or whatever, blasters, ionic beams, spitballs, whatever you want to have him shoot out, he can shoot out of those. It's up to you and your imagination. But overall, a decent robot. The face is kind of monochromatic. It's all blue, except for like a little bit of silver on his forehead and on the eyes, if you can see that. But decent bot overall. Gonna put aside his weapons and we will check out his vehicle mode. Now the transformation on these guys, not too difficult, but they are pretty clever in their transformation. So it's not super simplistic. By the way, these guys come in different colors. I got the entirely white set pretty much, but there is a red version of this guy. But there he is in his vehicle mode, a pretty cool looking car. Rolls well enough. He's got these blue spoilers on the back here. He's got these jet engines, so he can go really fast. This kind of badass looking engine on the top. Now, you can kind of see through the side here, he's got these other jets, but I don't really see a way, never mind. You can kind of push out those jets and kind of have them off to the side. Maybe push them out to the side so if he needs to turn quickly, he can use the jet to maneuver. Kind of a neat looking car. And if you look at the bottom, not a ton of kibble. It's got these, which look like exhaust ports, and everything kind of snaps in. These plates kind of have holes to snap in. So once you get everything in tight, which I didn't have it, but now it is, he's basically a very solid vehicle. So that is our light speed style vehicle. Let's take a look at Afterburner. Okay, kind of Afterburner. Pseudo Afterburner. We'll take out his swords. Now his face is basically a face plate. He looks like he's in Halo, so very robotic looking. As far as posability, the legs can pretty much go out into just about a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. His knees go in both directions. His legs move forward. His feet do have a bit of a swivel, but it's not in the direction you'd think. But you can push it back, so not really. So he doesn't really have an ankle swivel the way you think, but he does have one. The arms are kind of stiff going back and forth. He can pivot and move at the elbow. The hands actually do turn, but you don't really want to turn them. There's not really a reason to. He also has these little kind of ports here, so those could be also laser weapons to go with the swords. He does not twist at the waist, but his freaky looking face can, you can turn his head, he can look in all directions, and you can even like rip his face off. So, but a pretty cool looking bot. The back, not a lot of kibble. You can see the wheels. He's kind of got this spine looking thing, but let's get him into his vehicle mode. Oh, and this piece here can go up or down. I believe that's part of the merge. So it's up to you. Down might be better. And there he is in his motorcycle mode. I have to say, as long as you have the wheels properly positioned, he rolls pretty well. Squeaks a little. He's kind of got, it's not really a motorcycle. He's kind of like a tricycle because he's got two wheels in the back, one in the front. But it's a pretty cool looking vehicle. Definitely kind of like Afterburner from the Technobots. So I can see why they kind of went with that. Now we come to the nose cone type character. And this is actually where we had an issue. Now he's got these big honking axes, picks. He can definitely smash. Not that way, come on. Think about it. But you'll notice he's got these little wheels here. On this side it's broken. So that was something I didn't notice when I got the package. I kind of put it away for a while, and now it's way too late to complain about it, but just be aware when you get this guy, he's got these very fragile plastic wheels on the front. And I don't think it's that big of a deal because I'm probably going to merge this guy together and never take him apart again. But you definitely want to be aware of that. And, you know, if you receive one and it's got a break here, you want to do something about it. Posability wise, he's very easy to put into a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. Bends at the knees. The knees are actually a little bit stiff, but he can do side kicks. He's got these high heels here, so he can really do some stomping. Now, he doesn't really have ports that are like guns, so I guess he just uses the pickaxes or, you know, does a Dinobot and shoots out of his eyes. But very posable on the bottom. Does not twist at the waist. Arms can move back and forth, can move outward, bends at the elbow. The fists can wiggle a little bit, but they can't turn. But pretty good mobility there. And he can turn his head. And he's got this whole big thing back here that kind of, you know, keeps him from getting hit in the back of the head. The toes can be very easily moved out of place, so be careful of those. Doesn't really have any type of ankle swivel, but he's got a toe swivel, so you might be able to use that to put him into some dynamic poses and keep him there. But overall, not a ton of kibble on the back. You can put these wings up or down if you want him to be like showing his plumage or not. Does he want to mate? I don't know if he wants to mate. And like many Transformers that have treads, these treads don't work. So let's check out his vehicle mode. He is a drill tank of some kind. So there he is in drill tank mode. You can see on this side the little wheels are missing. You can see on this side that they're there. Now the drill tanks, there's always been very interesting thoughts. I mean, when you look at a drill tank, if he drilled into a wall, he couldn't get the rest of himself in. You know, this is good for putting holes in walls and then backing up and letting smaller troops go through. But not really good for traveling underground, but they seem to always think that you can do that. Even Twin Twist, come on. Those two little things, great for like smashing things in your way, but not really a drill tank that can actually travel after the drill and tunnel. But it's a pretty cool looking drill tank. Again, it's a shame that this broke and I didn't notice it until far too late to make any complaints. So if the guys who made these are watching and you want to send me a replacement one, please, by all means. But even without that, it's still a cool looking vehicle, if impractical. 2 more to go. No, not 4, 2. Now this guy definitely transforms into a jet, as you can kind of tell by the wings. Armed with 2 swords, his face here kind of looks a bit like Swoop's. His head does turn, by the way, and you can nod, and you know, that's pretty much it. You can nod, yes, yes, yes. But as far as posability, you can kind of put him into a toes up Jean-Claude Van Damme, but his heels kind of get in the way, actually. Now looking at these things on the back of his legs, you would think that they would be his feet and would go into here, but can't seem to get them to do that, and I don't want to force it. I think we'll just leave them as kind of a weird heel. He does not twist at the waist. His arms, you can shrug, you can move them forward and back. You can kind of, I'll move that out of the way. You kind of move them to the side a little bit, but he's a little bit hampered by this unless you push that jet down, then he can do that. That's a lot of work. He does have these guns that appear to be on his forearms, so he's armed in that way. The hands do not turn. Head, as I already showed you, does move quite a bit. But a decent looking guy. His head a little bit Swoop-like. There we go, his leg was turned around. Pretty stable, even if the part that you think is his feet doesn't actually work as a foot. Though you can kind of move them down to be like stabilizing heels. But all right, let's get this guy into his jet mode. And there he is in jet mode. Yes, pretty much that is very similar to Strafe. He's got these 2 cannons in the front. His face kind of collapses into that tail fin. He's got the jets, little landing gear type things on the bottom so he can supposedly roll, but he doesn't actually roll. You just slide him along. Like I said, cool looking futuristic jet. Again, very similar to Strafe. And finally, it's kind of scattershot like, but he's got these prongs up here. Let's check him out. He carries a sword and a big gun. Now let's see. He can pretty much do a toes up full Jean-Claude Van Damme. The legs go forward, mostly back. Bends at the knee, though I have to say the knee doesn't go all the way because of the way this particular bottom portion of the leg is. Kind of blocks it from going too much further. So limited there a little bit. His arms can go forward and back. Not really a lot. He can kind of go up and down at the shoulder, but not the best mobility there. Obviously, he's got the elbow joint. The hands do not turn. He does have a swivel at the elbow, so he can swivel out. He can decide he wants to shoot somebody over here. You know, so he's got that going for him. And his head turns freely. There is no twisting at the waist, but pretty cool. Bot mode, not a ton of kibble on the back, but you know, you can see cockpit. And when you look at him from above, he's got these jets. So if he's not careful and he's, you know, on a shaky bridge and he hits all his jets, he's gonna go. Now, interestingly, this is the only one who has his weapon become part of the transformation. We'll put the sword aside. So there he is in his jet mode. I like how the canopies are all very similar on these vehicles, gives them kind of a unified aesthetic. But he's got the 2 jets in the back, he's got the big honking cannon in front. These could be like guns for like someone who's chasing him. That'd be kind of cool. The head folds away so you can't see it. Not a ton of kibble on the bottom. And he actually has some landing gear. But a cool looking jet. Not quite, but kind of reminiscent of Scattershot. But I know what you want to see. Yes, let's merge into Warrior Calculator King. Still not the best name. So there he is, the Warrior Calculator King. But wait, there's a little bit more. Because you can take his weapons, you can take all his weapons and merge them into a great big sword. However, figuring out how to put it in his hand that is an issue. It actually does have a tab inside his hand to hold this humongous sword. Now, where this would go, I don't know. This is the one piece that doesn't go in. So still the Warrior Calculator King, pretty cool looking combiner. Arms can move. He actually has elbows, which is nice. The knees move as well. This one not as much, but that's just because of the leg that's there. A little bit on the hips. The head doesn't seem to want to turn. But still, the Warrior Calculator King. It's actually a pretty clever version of, well, I wouldn't call him Computron, but with this guy, one bot becomes the arms, two bots become the body, and one bot each becomes the legs. So it's a pretty neat transformation. I don't know that I want to put him together again. Probably just leave him like this. But if you were thinking about getting this guy, he's, well, definitely make sure that you check your nose cone for that break. But other than that, he looks like a really cool combiner. You know, if you wanted to put together a storyline, some of these knockoffs that are Transformers but not Transformers could be like working for the Quintessons or Cybertronians who aren't affiliated with one of the groups. So you have lots of choices. But this is Warrior Calculator King. So how much he costs right now is a good question. Some of the listings show them as like 25 a piece. One of them shows it as like 25 for the whole set. I will put some links down in the description so you can check it out. It's been a long time since I bought him. I have a feeling he's probably about 90 bucks. But he's pretty sturdy and I think it's worth it, but that's, again, entirely up to you. It's not a real Transformer, so what can you do? But if you're actually curious about Computron himself, we actually have a G1 counterfeit reissue Computron video right over here that you can check out. And of course you can like, share, comments are great. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you next time. As always, have fun and good hunting.